Hey everybody, here we are. It's Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Tokyo time. Hi Carl, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Ed?
Yeah,
And
hanging in there. Nice day
it's
today. Went out to
felt
the
like
park.
instant summer.
Yeah, I went out to the park today and I felt like I was in Shinjuku Station. There were so many people there.
Well, it was of course Golden Week, so everybody
Yeah.
wants to do something, and they decided to go visit
Yeah.
you.
I wish they'd all go home. Mike, get out of my park. Get off my lawn. Hey,
Okay.
we already got a chat. The chat box is open before and after the live stream is open. Yeah, I noticed your comment coming in. I don't know how that works, to tell you the truth, but it sure
And
seems to work. Your comment came in there, Rich. Oh, we got a second visitor. Four. Okay, here's everybody's coming.
everybody's
Yeah.
packing in. Do we still have any tables left?
Yeah, we gotta
Do we have any
rearrange the
tables left?
chairs
Well,
here.
you'll have to wait your turn to be seated.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Unfortunately, ta-da, I think everybody, all the troublemakers and all the, let me get rid of this crap in my background. All the troublemakers and all the movers and shakers in Tokyo seem to have taken off during Golden Week. So the collection of news stories we have here is pretty low. And so we're gonna do a couple of news stories, but basically it's going to be a lot of discussions. So I hope more people show up because it would be a pretty lonely discussion. But I wonder. In fact, I wondered what was going to happen when the weather turns nice
Mhm.
and people have things to do, and it is Saturday night and stuff like that. So I've always wondered what was going to happen, and I guess we're finding out, especially in
Was
Golden Week.
I want to say you started in around January? Is that right? Do you
Hmm.
remember?
Oh, when this
Um,
started,
the
yeah,
live streams in particular.
yeah, I'll let you know in just a second as soon as I can
Uh,
switch over.
but you're basically your popularity in when it has to compete with the weather has never been tested. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, this is our 30-second live stream. Did you know that? Isn't that
That
something?
includes the ones that you do by yourself.
Yeah, and I did the first one I did was on December 6th.
Okay,
And
so
then the ones that we did together, we do together,
mhm.
started on January 28th. You
Okay,
and I started
so
together.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So 32 live
yeah,
streams, that's pretty good, isn't it?
that's pretty decent. Yeah.
That's a pretty good
Uh,
run. Richard in Japan
um,
from Hokuriku. How you doing there, Richard? Good to see you there.
yeah.
All right, we got a
Are,
we got a crowd coming up here. Hmm.
are the crowd all packing into Hokuriku these days?
Yeah. What do you mean? What happened
So
in something?
Hokuriku, no. It's just like it's Golden Week, so is everybody heading
Oh,
out to that part of Japan?
could
I'm just
be,
curious.
could be. Yeah. The big story this week seems to be the guy at the zoo who cremated. You know, hey, Hoofin, OG, how you doing? Um, I saw this. Of course, we all saw this, and I thought it was pretty gross. But when we get off after a live stream finishes, Carl and I always get together at the end and talk about how it went and do a little bit of a uchiage there. And there's a graph that we can watch on YouTube, and it shows the number of viewers as the live stream progresses, and there's
Mhm.
actually the video appears behind the graph, so you can see where it peaks, and you could slide over there and find out what you were talking about. And you could find out where it dips and see what you were talking about. And every time I talked about some murder or some depressing kind of story, the view count would boom. So I thought, well, no zoo guy who cremated his girlfriend. Yeah. But if you want to talk about it, Rich, it's your responsibility. Whatever happens here on out. What do you know about this story? Have you been following it there, Carl?
I won't say I've been following it. I think it passed before my eyes on YouTube for a minute or so. So I guess, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So a zoo employee, so the word that was used was cremate, but I think it was against their will.
Yeah.
So it wasn't part of a legal ceremony. Let's put it that way. So basically, somebody, well, can we say that on this channel? Murdered their female companion and disposed of the evidence through cremation. But I guess the evidence wasn't complete, so they found some evidence, like human remains in the ashes or something. They could do some analysis.
Yeah, I wasn't actually. I didn't really look at the story at all. I'm too busy doing Gaijin 50+ works to to dabble in such blood and gore. No, I'm just joking, but it did catch my eye. But what I was wondering is how did they determine? How did they find out? What led them to the incinerator? Which I thought was interesting.
So again, I didn't spend much time. It found me is probably a better way to say about the story. But my probably incorrect understanding was that they found human ashes in with the other ashes. Was it something like that?
But what made them check the ashes? I was wondering.
So it's like two things. Like, why would they check the ashes? And two, like, even if they checked the ashes, how did they know what it was that made the ashes?
I don't know.
So, and this is probably why I didn't follow up on it. But it as you said, it's a gruesome.
Dreadzone over in Gifu said the news showed quite a lot of footage with the guy who worked at the zoo. It is kind of creepy since he was used in promotional videos for visitors. Oh. That's embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the last comment. So see Walthall Brand. So 焼却量で燃やした遺体という事件. Yeah. So there was a body in the incinerator.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty gross stuff. Yeah, I've seen. I like to watch. On YouTube, I like to watch police videos and true crime videos, and it seems like a lot of criminals think that, well, all I have to do is burn the body and I'll be, good as gold. And it never, I won't say it never works out, but it doesn't work out in a lot of cases. And somebody gives us some background. Rich says the zoo spotted him on video after hours and called the police. They found the human remains left over in the incinerator. Okay, there you go.
It probably, I was going to say, it probably wasn't an incinerator that was intended for humans to go in there. So
yeah. By the way, go ahead.
No, it wasn't. So I mean, like in Japan, I think just about everybody is cremated. And I don't know if you've ever been at one of these, but. At
my age, I've been to quite a few.
Okay, but so I mean, in Japan, in my experience, there's the funeral that maybe a fair number of people, that's like the extended circle, so to speak, and then the actual cremation might be probably at a different location, and then just the the direct relatives go. But then, like in Japan, how you're not supposed to stick your rice in or stick your chopsticks in the rice like this because it's ingiwarui. And actually, for the incinerating the deceased body, you do stick them in that, and that's where the rule that you're not supposed to do that because it reminds people of a funeral comes from. But
And also,
anyway,
that's where the rule comes from. You never pass food chopsticks to chopsticks.
Yeah, because again, you do that in that ceremony.
Yeah, well, when they pull the person out of it's not an incinerator, the crematorium.
Yeah.
The bones remain, and they're put into an urn. And I don't know, for some reason, somebody picks up the bone with chopsticks and hand it to somebody who takes them with the chopsticks and puts them into the urn. So passing chopsticks to chopsticks reminds one of death or incineration.
Yeah.
Not incineration, cremation.
Yeah, I guess it's disrespectful. So
yeah. Okay, so they said, oh, this is what I thought too. It was an incinerator intended for large animals. Okay.
Kaso sasetakunai. So I don't want to cremate anyone. I'm not sure.
Be cremated?
Saretakunai?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, until I'm dead, I don't want to be. So, crematorium.
That reminds me. That reminds me of a scene from Monty Python where they go and collect a person's liver. So the people came from the Liver Foundation and they said, "Oh, have you got a liver donor card?" I'm like, yes. Okay, well, we're gonna have your liver then. It's like, but it says in the event of death. And the people who came to collect the liver said, "That's okay. Nobody's ever had their liver out by us and survived, so it is in the event of death."
Okay. Oh, by the way, here's an older comment. Richard in Japan says that there were a lot of tourists because it was his city festival. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's get off this.
Sure.
Topic. Oh, by the way, talking about crime, I was looking at YouTube, which I spend way too much time doing. But since I started this channel, that's all I do. But there was a news report from a Chicago TV station, and being from Chicago, though I have not been there in decades, you know what it's like, Chicago. Oh, and it catches your eye. So I started watching this news report, and they were talking about this guy in Japan. He's from Indiana, and he was arrested for murdering a woman. And the Chicago news report said that it was like 2 or 3 years ago that this murder occurred. And this guy had gone out drinking and fell asleep somewhere, and the police woke him up and took him in for questioning. And they say that the woman she wasn't killed. She was, I don't know if this is a good word. She was, taken advantage of. And and the police said, "Who did it?" And she says, "It was a Japanese guy." And but the police grabbed this gaijin. I think he's a black guy. They grabbed him and arrested him, and they said, "Give us a DNA." And he goes, "Okay." And they took the DNA, and then they said, "Oh, this DNA." Oh, they took the DNA from the suspect, and then they took the DNA from the victim or something like that. And they tried to match. There are some matches and some mismatches, and evidently this guy was found guilty once, and he refuses to confess. The hostage justice. He absolutely will not confess. And so after the first trial, they appealed, and the Tokyo High Court not overturned, but sent it back to the lower court and said, give this guy a new trial. So he's still, they won't let him out on bail or anything like that. And they say, oh, it'll be another couple of years before this thing goes to a new trial. And they were making a big deal out of it in Chicago, and they showed his mother was crying and stuff like, he's a good boy and stuff like that. Has anybody ever heard of anything like that? That was the first I ever heard of something like that. Have you heard any kind of news like that?
I mean, what you're describing sounds like what is referred to as the uh, hostage. What did you call it? The hostage justice, and it's a pretty famous situation, and yeah, but I can't name other. I mean, I think there were plenty of cases where Japanese people got convicted based on circumstantial evidence, and then wasn't there a guy like after like 40 years they decided, oh, maybe he didn't do it, and they let him out,
Yeah.
or whatever, it was overturned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, look at Carlos Ghosn, He had to leave
he's gone
Japan in a
now.
box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how Japan still tries to force a confession via something. Yeah. Yes.
Although in the case of Ghosn, I mean, he was, I think, house arrest, and that's why he was able to get out. So
yeah, but did you hear that the two guys who helped him escape, eventually, they evidently had to do some prison time? They were
in the U.S. or in Japan?
I think maybe I don't remember, but I remember them getting maybe I think it was in the U.S. Maybe if someone knows. Okay, this is something. Yeah, that guy was the longest stay in the world on death row. That was the guy maybe you were talking about there, Carl.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah.
And Ghosn seems to be writing his own tax code, though. There are a lot of angles to that story. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know all the details, but Ghosn has his side of the story too. They have their side of the story too. I mean, the guy was living pretty well, I guess, but yeah. I heard more talking about Ghosn. I heard Nissan's going to cut the number of models that they're carrying in their fleet, and they're going to depend more upon AI to pursue their automobile operations. Okay, were you here, Carl, during the big homeless boom, homeless fad?
So actually, I believe that there are many fewer homeless in Japan than in, for example, the United States. And the United States probably depends a lot on whether it's New York City or, Idaho. But there are a few places in Tokyo that I can think of where you go and you see lots of homeless people. I guess one is like along riversides. There seems like there's guys who have basically kind of set up camp. I'm not saying like that's the situation now, but I can imagine having seen places like that. And I'm sure there's a story coming.
Of course. Were you here for the really big homeless, when there were homeless people all over the place in Tokyo? Were you here at that post-bubble homeless?
So I guess I didn't come to Tokyo until the mid 2000s. So it sounds like I missed the homeless bubble.
Oh, there used to be. Are you familiar with in Nishi Shinjuku? They've got the station, the west exit of Shinjuku Station, and they have a straight shot street that goes to where the original Shinjuku skyscrapers were. The Sumitomo
Mhm.
building, the Mitsui
Mhm.
building. There are about 3 or 4 of them out there. And a lot of that straight shot passes under an underpass. So one of my big, not one of, but my biggest customer was located in the Sumitomo triangular building. So before the internet, I had to run that gauntlet just about every day. And that covered area was filled. I mean, shoulder to shoulder with homeless people living in cardboard boxes, and it was horrible. I mean, it smelled really bad, and they would they would yell at the people passing by. One day I was walking by there. I had a coat and a tie and a briefcase, and I was walking along, and this homeless woman, she looked like she was, you know, either drinking or something, but missing teeth and scraggly hair. And she saw me and she pointed at me and she went, "Anta, Anta, Anta." And I was sitting there, oh, do I know you? But
Mhm.
yeah, it was pretty horrible. And it was like that for quite a long time. And then all of a sudden, whoop, disappeared, cleaned out.
And this all of a sudden was when was that? Was it
90s,
like
maybe?
a okay? Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, so okay, so I actually have been sort of like going down memory lane and looking at when I first came to Japan, which was '93, and I went to orientation for the JET program at the Keio Plaza Hotel, which is in I don't know if it's Nishi Shinjuku or Shinjuku, but I don't know if you're familiar with the hotel, but there is an underpass that is quite close to the hotel, and my memory from 30 years ago may have been replaced with my imagination of how it must have been 30 years ago, but I seem to remember homeless people in the underpass right by the Keio Plaza Hotel.
That's the underpass
And,
I was referring to. Yes.
okay, okay. So
But on the
then,
other side of the street from the KO Plaza Hotel, right?
okay,
But both
but
sides were filled with homeless people. Yeah.
okay. Kelvin's here. We got a few people who have said hi, but
All right.
and yeah,
I'm.
so go ahead.
Oh yeah. Hi, Mohammed. Yeah. Okay. I used to be the undertowns were lined with homeless. Yeah.
I
And
was going to
remember
say,
that. Go ahead.
Ueno was another place where I kind of remember homeless people, like and maybe the park there too, like over by the where the um, where all the I want to say water lilies, but it's not water lilies. Hustle. It's
Yeah.
lotus,
Yeah.
the lotus flower, the lotus
Yeah.
pond is.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Ueno is kind of like I don't know if it still is, but it was once the gateway to Tohoku, and a lot of Tohoku laborers came to Tokyo to work, and so there's a little bit. There's always been a little bit of that working class
mhm.
kind of. I don't want to say poor, but you know what I'm saying, kind of vibe to the
It's
place. I
yeah.
remember.
And
Mhm.
as you said, it totally feels like the gateway to
Yeah,
Tohoku or to up
right.
north. I mean, that's where the Tohoku Shinkansen leaves from,
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's
yeah.
lots of others. Wasn't Ueno kind of like the original main station before Tokyo Station
It could be.
years
I
and
don't
years ago?
know. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
maybe before your time too, even.
yeah. No, when I came here, it was Tokyo, definitely Tokyo.
Mm,
When I first
yeah.
came here, all right, you got a story coming. The first time I came to Tokyo Station, my mother was coming to visit, and I had to buy a ticket. And she wasn't here yet. She and my brother were coming, and I had to get some tickets to go to Fukuoka or something. I don't remember. But I came to Tokyo Station, and I was, like, oh my God, because I was from Fukuoka and didn't know anything. I was like a hayseed, right? And in those days, there were guys. hanging around the ticket windows. There were no machines, by the way, at that one, but there
Mhm.
were guys hanging around the ticket window, and I was sitting there looking confused, and this guy came up to me and he said, "Hey, may I help you?" In English. And I said, "Yeah, I need to buy some tickets." And he said, "Come on." And he took me to a window and arranged the tickets and got them, and I paid for them. And he held his hand out. And I said, well, how much do you want? And I forgot what it was reasonable. So I gave it to him,
Mhm.
and it was really cool. Back in the day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A similar story. I was in Detroit near my workplace.
Uh,
And I had run out of gas, so I had to fill up my gas in Detroit, and it wasn't so comfortable. But I got out and at the gas station was going to fill my tank, and the guy grabbed the thing, and he didn't work there. He was a homeless guy, and he said, "I'll fill your tank for you." And uh, I gave him a tip, and I got out of there, and I'm here now. So, but
yeah.
I think you had a more pleasant experience than I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right. Mohammed says
okay,
Asakusa, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Taylor and his son were Ghosn's associates who helped him escape in the music. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Michael Taylor and his son. And as you pointed out before, I guess he said that they did some time in the U.S. and were extradited to Japan.
yeah.
Okay, Kelvin, good morning, evening, everyone. A little late joining today. Welcome, Kelvin. Kelvin, please check your email. Okay. Sorry, folks. Official government statistics report that Japan had two thousand. Maybe I should change our thing here to show that 2,591 homeless people in January 2025. It's likely 10 times that, according to AI. According to this article, as a matter of fact, it said it was 10 times that, and then it went down. Yeah, right here. The government identified 25,296 people as homeless nationwide as of January and February 2003, and the number has since continued to fall, reaching a record low of 2,591 as of January 2025. Now, this particular article was saying that people, instead of saying homeless, they said people living on the streets in Japan have decreased, but there are many invisible homeless. And by that, they mean people who are sleeping in their car or sleeping at their friend's house, different friend's house day by day. So,
I I think there's an expression, I want to say netto kisa nanmin or something like that. It might not be quite right, but like there are. So I think the sort of the cheapest place that you can stay uh, without being outside is like they have manga kisa. So and then you can be in one of the little booths, and I think they have showers and stuff. So, but it's not a permanent, and you might be able to like get a pack for
mm,
several days,
mm.
but it's kind of like one step away from being homeless. I think that's
Yeah,
how I.
I've seen articles in the past about people who live in internet cafes, right? Same
Mhm.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah, right.
I got a kick out of this one. Look at this. Homeless people, all right. Excuse me.
Mhm.
I tried to highlight this like I usually do, but this
Mhm.
damn thing would not highlight for some reason. All right. To begin with, who exactly, to whom does the term homeless refer? The act on, I love this. It sounds so Japanese. The Act on
Mhm.
Special Measures Concerning Assistance and Self Support of Homeless, which took effect in 2002, defines them as people who, without just cause, use urban parks, rivers, roads, station buildings, and other facilities as places to live and conduct their daily lives. What in the heck does without just cause mean? I mean, if the police came and said, "Why are you living here? Do you have just cause?" Yeah, I don't have any place to live. That sounds like just cause to me. But what do you think there,
Maybe
Carl?
they aren't like they haven't registered the park as their address on their Juminhyo or something like
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah, must be something like that. But then
Yeah.
again, I mean, I'm sure that Japan has a hidden homeless problem, but it's they're sure better off than they are back in places like California or something like that, aren't they? Where people are all over the place. But I wonder if it's going to get worse as Tokyo gets more and more expensive. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say in California, I've heard like people they'll have like a regular job, but rent is $2,000, and I was like, well, I can't afford that, so I'm just going to live in my car. Um,
Yeah.
so those people are homeless, but they're not. I mean, I think we usually think of homeless people as like they have no job, they have no documentation, and I have a feeling in California when rents are/were so high, then people just said, well, I don't need a place to live, I'll just do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I started thinking then, after
Mhm.
reading all of this homeless, I wonder if there's any gaijin homeless, or they talk about one reason the homeless number has, or the people living on the street number has decreased, is because the increase in facilities where homeless people can seek refuge. I wonder if there are any gaijins in those refuge centers. It got me wondering. I wonder if there's
I
any.
My suspicion is that if a gaijin is in that situation, then they would be asked to leave, like Japan. And
Mm,
I can imagine that there are people who don't have the plane fare to go home to, leave the country, and they may not want to leave the country because they have no place to go, like in their home country either.
mm,
But my guess is that they would be treated significantly differently from the Japanese people who are in that situation.
mm. Okay. Richard says Omiya used to be the gateway to Tokyo, and then 40 years ago they extended the Shinkansen to Ueno. I think that Ueno was the gateway to Tohoku before the Shinkansen. But anyway, that's not important, is it? Okay. I remember now the area's name is Minowa near Higashi Asakusa, a lot of homeless long time ago. Yeah, maybe so. Gaijin-san, how's everything going? Pretty good, Alexander. How are you? I haven't seen you around the comments these days. You've been laying low. And Kelvin says, I did. Thanks a lot. I'm replying now. Thank you. And Asakusa. That's okay. We know what you meant. The cheapest place are in Sanya. Isn't that the Osaka area? Or is that in Tokyo? Sanya.
I
Do
Sanya doesn't. I was like, is that like Sangenjaya or is that? I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not familiar with Sanya.
Yeah, I know in Osaka, and it may be Sanya that I'm thinking of. I may be wrong though.
Mhm.
But there's one area of laborers and homeless cheap places that people are saying, oh, never go there, it's so scary and dangerous.
Richard says Sanya is north of Ueno, so it's in Tokyo.
Oh, okay, all right, good, all right, thank you. So generally the homeless are not registered with the city office. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of itinerant workers in Sanya, and Sanya is north of Ueno. Thank you. Okay, good. So anyway, I thought this was interesting. There, people living, staff members of a nonprofit organization speak to a person believed to be living in a car at a roadside station. This partially modified photo. Yes, partially modified. They blurred the number
License
plate.
plate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. Do they go out and start bothering people? That's interesting, right? Okay. I saw there's a Japanese person and a Japanese couple too that live in their car and they drive place to place in Japan. So uh, I wonder how many people in Japan. But I don't think Japan wouldn't be that interesting to be, like they in America they get these camper cars and drive from place to
Mhm.
place. Japan would get really boring real quick, I think. It's so tiny, right? Okay.
It's not like, going on the open road and exploring the country sort of thing.
Yeah. I've stayed in Sanya. It's a rare experience in Japan. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. They have gaijin homeless in the Philippines. I've seen, yeah. Hi, Lisa. Lisa, I'm going to write to you too one of these days. And Lisa says, I've seen videos about that on YouTube. I mean, some guys look like they're in really bad shape, teeth falling out. And, they arrived with plenty of money and it got, swindled off of them. Do you know what my friend told me about the Philippines? He said, it's easy to make a small fortune in the Philippines. Did you know that? All you
I,
have
I'm all ears. Yeah.
all you have to do is arrive with a big fortune. My friend
Yeah.
who's living in the Philippines told me that. Okay. But you're right, Lisa. Okay. It's very difficult to be homeless in Japan because there are so many cheap options. Osaka has the biggest slum in Japan. Even that place has cheap options to prevent homelessness. Okay. Okay. Good to know in case we ever go homeless, huh? Cheap
Mhm.
options. Okay. Talking about poor people and all this kind of thing. Takaichi's in the news, and she vows all out efforts towards sustained pay hikes at a May Day event. And it says that her government will do its utmost to help ensure continued wage hikes as the head of the country's umbrella group for labor unions underscored the need for increased pay amid um, inflation. Where's the name of the group? Rengo. Okay, the Japanese labor unions under the Japanese Trade Union Confederation known as Rengo. Now, story time. When I first came here, labor unions were really, 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 really powerful, and there were major strikes multiple times a year, strikes of railway workers, bus drivers, and subway workers, and things like that. And they just walk off. And then it would paralyze the country, of course, because nobody could get to work, or those who were at work when the strike started couldn't get home. And it was good in a way because whenever there was a strike, we would be given the day off because there was no way of travel and there was no online kind of classes or things like that. But these days, it seems like the labor unions are very, very weak in Japan. That's why wages have been stagnant for so many years. But Takaichi said they want the wages to go up, and I hope that the labor unions um, get more aggressive. The government is looking for 5% average wage hikes, but I haven't seen any of that in my neck of the woods. Anybody seen any wage raises? How about you, Carl?
So the work that I do now is like sort of freelance gig work for publishing, and I would say that I'm sure that AI and supply and demand issues have um, have not favored people working in gig jobs in publishing, and I would say that the offers are actually going down. So it's negative increase, if you will. So
Hmm.
like let's say 5 years ago they would have offered 100,000 yen for a job, and now they're offering 80,000. Like, well, take it or leave it. That's my impression.
Hmm.
So and obviously I'm not part of any labor union. I wonder if, and I have the feeling that the government tends to look at sort of large organizations rather than sort of people who are doing gig work. And I think the people who are part-time and gig work is actually increasing. I guess that's not based on some statistics. It's uh, more a gut feeling. But I
Yeah.
wonder if this 5% increase is really going to go sort of to everybody, or is it just going to go to a certain subsection of the working people?
Yeah, it seems like the big companies, very big companies with strong labor unions will be getting pretty good. But it says average 5%. So there
Mhm.
are people getting maybe more. I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's not much. I mean, there where I work, they do they do they do try to treat us as well as possible. But there's no big wage. I mean, nothing's keeping up with inflation. That's for sure. Okay.
I mean, if I just think of groceries, things like coffee are, 250% of the they're 2.5x what they were before COVID. Meat is maybe 50% more. So, it takes a lot of years of 5% to get up to 50% more. And you're still not going to be able to buy as much coffee as you did before. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's 5% is nice, but if, as you said, if inflation is growing faster, then it feels like you're earning less and less. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is just I just wanted to throw this out here. There's no real discussion, I think, material here.
actually, one thing. So when I first came to Japan, and I guess I've known it for a long time. Uh, it feels so like in the States, for example, I'm from Detroit, so the labor union that comes to mind is the UAW. And the UAW is at Ford, the UAW is at GM, the UAW is at Chrysler or Stellantis or whatever the company is called now. But in Japan, I get the feeling that it's the Toyota labor union, it's the Honda labor union, it's the Mazda labor union. The labor unions are company by company, they're not across industry. So the dynamic is significantly different compared with in the States.
Yeah. Richard says the underlying motive is higher wages means more taxes. Well, that's true, I guess. They could always tax the companies more. They'll get your money one way or another, I guess. But yeah, and I have always felt, I may be wrong, but I have always felt that the Japanese government does everything in its power to keep individuals from accumulating wealth. They seem to, with their taxes and consumption tax and income tax and this kind of tax, they seem to be really set on making sure that people don't get too comfortable. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
I think so. Like compared with the U.S. and Japan, I think that inheritance tax is much higher in Japan than it is, for people who have any significant amount of money, compared
mm,
with. Um, so it's much higher in Japan compared with the United States. And
yeah,
then I guess another thing that's like when I look at like income tax levels, it feels like Japan is quite low. But then you have to add in Juminze, which can be quite, so what's that called? Residence tax, which can
mm,
be, you know, almost as much as, maybe not almost as much, but like a high percentage of your income tax is like this additional tax. And if you add that on together, then you're paying a pretty decent amount of tax.
yeah, yeah. Okay, shoplifting. So if you're poor, paying too many taxes, don't get paid enough in wages, you can always become a shoplifter. But as we know, Japanese people never break the law and they don't steal, for goodness sake. But according to this story, shoplifters are finding a way to get around self-service cash registers, which is, I think, a common problem everywhere. According to retailers around the nation, shoplifting is definitely on the rise. And they say overall, shoplifting accounts for the highest percentage of non-burglary thefts, with 38.5% of the total. Many people suffered economically. Now, I start reading this kind of stuff, and it starts rubbing me the wrong way. Every time you have story about some kind of a social problem, first they blame the pandemic, and I'll give you one guess about who else is going to get the blame here. You want to guess there, Carl? Yeah, you, and you, right? So many people suffered economically due to the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which was what, 6 years ago? Explained Yu Ito, an authority on shoplifting who is said to have arrested 6,000 offenders during his law enforcement career. Then when it finally came safe to go out again, they felt a sense of release, and this is believed to have spurred the increase in shoplifting. Oh, I've been stuck at home because of the pandemic. I'm free now. Oh, I think I'll go shoplifting. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever read. The wide-scale adoption of self-service cash registers is another contributing factor. Well, no kidding. Yeah. What a bunch of baloney. It seems that when caught in the act, thieves can claim they made a mistake in the checkout process, which Ito says is nonsense, since the mistakes almost always involve failing to ring up expensive items. Do you know, I almost made this mistake. I was at the grocery store, the OK store near my house, and you've got your place where you're doing your checkout. And on my right, I had my basket, and on my left, I had a backpack because I was buying some heavy items. So, and in the middle was the scanner. And for some reason, I took some stuff out of the basket and just put it in my backpack without scanning it.
No,
luckily,
no.
luckily, I realized it. I went, oh, and pulled the stuff out and scanned it. But I was wondering what would have happened if I hadn't scanned that. I wonder if they would have grabbed me or thrown a paintball at me or something like that. So
the question, the very important question I have is, okay, it's self-checkout, so they don't need a clerk to check you out. But like in convenience stores, they have those paintballs, right? And that's also part of the convenience store employee's job. So
yep.
Does the self-serve cash register have a little paintball gun that's pointed in the direction of the door, so that if it detects that you haven't scanned everything, does it shoot you?
I don't know. I was at a convenience store when I was up in Tochigi, a convenience store I often went to, and I was checking out, and there was a guy behind the counter, and I looked over in the office, and they had about 6 or 8, and this was out in the Inaka, a little place. They had about 6 or 8 TV screens. So I looked around, and sure enough, they had cameras all over the store. So I said to the guy, I knew him. I always saw him. I said, man, you got a lot of cameras. And he goes, yeah. And I said, if you were watching that monitor and you saw somebody stealing stuff, what would you do? And the guy said, probably nothing. So I always remember.
Was it the owner or just an employee?
Employee. Yeah.
Okay. That's above my pay grade.
So they're talking. They say that go ahead.
So this is you're spring chicken, so this doesn't apply to you. But with Japan as an aging society, it seems like it's possible that there are. Okay, so I think one of the things for the COVID people, if they lost their jobs and they didn't have money, and then they could go out again, they could have been what did they say? Inspired or felt at liberty to shoplift, not because they were free again, but because they didn't have jobs, because they lost them due to COVID. So
Could
now
be.
some elderly pensioners who are living off of a meager pension, they may also not have lots of money. Like sometimes on these TV shows, there are an old pensioner who is caught shoplifting. And so, on the one hand, somebody could have a brain fart, or what do they call that, senior moment. And
Are you saying like I did?
well, I'm talking in hypotheticals. So somebody could have a senior moment and do it, or somebody could be motivated by not getting enough pension to support their habits, and then do it intentionally. And then I think if it was unintentional, uh, you should try to avoid the situation happening, but you shouldn't punish them in the same way as punishing somebody who does it intentionally. Although that's a much longer debate. But my guess is that this could happen more and more often as Japanese society ages.
Yeah, could be. Could be. Well, they say that each time the barcode is scanned, the unit goes beep, but it's often hard to tell which terminal the beep is coming
If your
from.
hearing is bad,
Yeah.
if your hearing
As
is
mine
bad,
is.
it's not going to help you.
Like I say, I didn't hear anything. One caper, I like the way they used to throw in a little bit of the little underworld lingo in there. One caper is when purchasing a 6-pack of beer, instead of scanning the barcode for the whole 6-pack, the thief will just extract a single can, scan its barcode, and then pay for the 1 can while stealing the remaining 5. Another technique, in case you're interested, is to scan a cheap item like a pack of bean sprouts while slipping past a more expensive item. And another is clipping off the barcode from a previous cheap purchase and sticking it onto a new pricier item. Yeah, I've seen that on the real, Code Blue Cam videos on YouTube, right? And they're talking about these are I thought were pretty funny. A high school girl slipped packs of meat into her bulky socks, and I don't think bulky socks are even fashionable anymore. A man made off with a bicycle on display out of doors. Okay, I've been tempted when you see these outdoor displays. And during store interior renovations, a thief dressed up as a construction worker and brazenly walked out of the shop in full view of others while carrying a widescreen TV receiver. Smart guy. Then, are you ready? Here we go. It's you. Visitors from abroad are also known to shoplift. Foreign thieves are more likely to work in teams. I've been told they go so far as to attend lectures on how to pull off thefts before coming to Japan. Those dastardly devils. Now, goods stolen by Japanese, good Japanese shoplifters typically take about 10,000 yen worth of goods, while foreign thieves, on the average, make off with a not inconsiderable 90,000 yen. Wow,
It's the exchange rate. I think that's what that's.
When caught in the act, the foreign thieves are known to react differently from Japanese. Well, first, I guess so. They speak English instead of Japanese. Some women, for example, will clutch to the police officer's hand and attempt to seduce him while pleading for leniency, while some men are known to aggressively shove store clerks aside and cause a huge commotion. And that's the end of the article. So I guess that settles that. I guess that's the thought that they wanted to leave dear reader with at the end. Wow.
They need to pay their journalists a little bit more over there at Japan Today, maybe.
Yeah, I mean they're buying into the whole story, hook, line, and sinker. Who is that? Beep, boop, beep. Oh, it's a general article, so I don't know who wrote it. There's no byline on it. But anyway, okay. As a public service announcement, I would like at Gaijin 50, here, I would like to do my duty. All you foreigners out there, and that means all you people here too, quit shoplifting, will you, please? We know that you foreigners are out there shoplifting, and quit roughing up the clerks and quit trying to seduce the police officers. Okay? All right. All right. Carl, Ed Noy's picking on me. Ed got cold feet at the last when I was stuffing stuff in my bag. Yeah, that was it. I saw the woman looking at me with a shaking hand holding a paintball, so I chickened out.
I've
So,
been on some of those machines. They'll be like, put that thing back. So like sometimes if they have some sort of algorithm where if it doesn't scan, they'll say, like, and I don't know if this was in Japan or it's probably in the States where they see like, put it back in the car. Don't. So like there's some sort of warning system, and I would imagine that just like with everything else, they're getting better and better. But I guess the foreigners are getting better and better at their job too. So.
Did you ever go to Uniqlo? Do you ever shop at
Yeah,
Uniqlo?
right. Yeah. So actually, I'm XXL, and they generally don't have my size in the store. And so I rarely go to Uniqlo, but I did a couple of years ago, and it's not even like reading a barcode. You just stick your basket, and I think it's a RF reader. It's like
yeah. I thought that
And
was
it
so
just says
cool.
what
You
it's
just dump your stuff in the bin, and it totals it up, without
So
even.
you say it's cool, but I say it's just, you don't hear the beep, beep, beep. It's very, it's like you have this big event and then there's no climax. So for me, it doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah. Okay. Did they really get everything? Okay.
Yeah.
Walmart in the States is ditching its self-checkout. Too much theft. Yeah, there is a lot of theft in the United. Well, the way it is in the United States. The United States. Those of us who grew up there. Well, nobody's watching it, so tough on them. Pick it up and take it home. Yeah.
I love my movie scenes. So if you get a chance, watch Animal House. There's a shoplifting scene where pledges to the Delta House have to steal a bunch of meat from the grocery store.
Yeah.
And the girl who's at the cash register catches them and then lets him go.
Yeah. Okay. And I have a Japanese friend who refuses to believe that the amount of elderly shoplifters, as shown on BBC video on YouTube I saw recently, is incorrect. Shoplifters get up to 3 years in prison. Wow.
So I heard that there are elderly Japanese who want to get 3 years in prison because cheap rent, free food. Like they don't have enough money to live on their own, then they would rather be in prison.
Did you see that video? Did you see that video that's around YouTube? It was just on that topic. I just saw it yesterday, and they asked this old guy, what? Yeah, it was that who's that that reporter? Bashir's. He's always getting in the fights.
Is that a Japanese guy?
No. It's a U.S. report, but he's asked this guy, why do you want to go to prison? And he goes, oh, it's cold outside, and I don't have any place to stay. So he wanted to go back to jail, right? 70,000 yen, go big or go home. Okay. Ed Noy's getting warmed up here. All the news that is news. All right. And Alexander Kurtz says it does make sense that Gaijin would steal more expensive item. They wouldn't take risks at stealing food. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And,
Go big or stay home. Yeah, go
Yeah,
boss.
they came all this way. I mean, what the heck, I'm too weak to lift a shop. Ha! Oyaji gag, right? What happens if you cheat at pachinko? Isn't there a way to cheat at pachinko with a magnet or something? Powerful magnet, you put it up against the glass. But I don't know that much about pachinko, just what I hear, from the grapevine. There you go. We used to say this about the army: 3 hots and a cot, right? Okay.
So the army was just like prison.
Yeah, it is. It's very much like prison, as a matter of fact.
With
Especially
labor.
where I was, out on the rock at the end of the Aleutian chain. I felt like I was on Alcatraz, 2 miles by 4 miles. Really a wonderful place. Okay. All right. Shoplifting. We got one more. I didn't. I gave Carl a list before we came here, but I didn't tell him about this one because I picked it up after I sent him a list. And this one I thought was pretty good. Let me. I gotta see if I can zoom in. Oh, I can't zoom in. You've got to be kidding me. Okay. Well, anyway, I thought I could zoom in a bit. Sorry about the small type. I'll try one more time. No.
I'm zooming, so I can make it bigger on my screen. But I mean,
Uh,
but you can't share that with the other people. So everybody has to zoom for them. Zoom for yourself.
yeah, zoom for yourself. Every zoomer for themselves. Foreign workers leave Japan's countryside, more come to fill the gap. Yeah, okay, that's pretty reasonable. But I found parts of this story to be pretty interesting. And that is, they're saying that, for example, in Hokkaido, one Hokkaido hospital trained a bunch of foreign workers for a couple of years, taught them Japanese, taught them how to live in Japan, and they got their specialty visas, and they all left, came to Tokyo, and it looks like the hospital was pretty upset about it. They said they hired 14 foreign nationals as care workers under Japan's technical intern training program since 2021. And by the end of June, all of them were gone. So this guy who was running the hospital, he went to Myanmar and Vietnam and met people and interviewed people before hiring them. And the company provided dormitories and appliances and taught them Japanese during working hours. And he says none of them were able to speak Japanese well when they came here, but they grew incredibly fast to a level where they could communicate with customers with no trouble. And as soon as they got their ability, boop, boop, they were gone, off to Tokyo. And this isn't an isolated case. It seems like has happened a lot. They said that they spent about 2 million yen per worker for training. And after that, they all left. And then what is it? Some young lady, this woman named Bui, of all things, worked with around 40 Vietnamese technical trainees and was so comfortable with communal living at the dorm. The company's Japanese employees were friendly and took time to show her the ropes, but there were few opportunities to spend time with anyone besides fellow trainees, and Bui began to feel isolated. This is a common refrain about people living in Japan. So old Bui, went to Tokyo. Again, she's working for a company, lives in company housing, but she says Tokyo is more lively. She can get out more. She can interact with other people. And she also is given the opportunity to work overtime. And working overtime means that she can earn more money, send money home, put a little aside, save money, and stuff like that. So it seems like the brain drain that's among Japanese people all coming to Tokyo is also affecting these foreign trainees and people coming in from other countries. What do you think? You think that's fair?
Um, I can appreciate the frustration of the guy who went and recruited everybody.
Yeah.
However, it's not. So I think this is one way that you can read this is foreigner bad. Foreigner, what's the word? Do not have enough appreciation for what they have been given. However,
Mm.
Japanese people who grow up in the countryside, they leave for the city too. It's not that different. And this comment by about Bui, feeling isolated and not having other um, chances for interaction. That sounds very plausible. Actually, a couple of years ago, I was in the hospital for a couple of months, and there were so the doctors and nurses were all Japanese. It was a pretty big hospital, and then there were lots of support staff, and there were some from I want to say Sri Lanka, and maybe Nepal, and maybe there was multiple countries, but it was a few different countries, and I remember asking some of them, like, well, how do you like it here? And I kind of got a scowl from at least one of the guys that I asked. And I was sort of, because like I had a great time when I came to Japan, but I had lots of opportunities to interact with Japanese people. This person was working all night long, and then I don't live in downtown Tokyo, but I live in kind of the suburbs, and depending on where you live, and especially if you're working all night long and then you have to sleep during the day and then come back and do it again at night, you may not have a lot of opportunity to interact with other people, and maybe that's why this person was feeling, gave me the impression that they weren't really enjoying it. So
Yeah.
so it's going back to Bui and in the story, I feel like it's not it's more the situation rather than the the individuals. They just got some people with bad attitudes, and so maybe the solution is that you have, like, this is going to happen and you plan for it to happen rather than uh, somehow expecting them to want to stay. um,
Yeah, it would seem that
well,
it would seem that the company could be a little bit wiser and say, we will train you for X amount of time, after which you have to stay with the company for X number of years. So
so like sort of like, what's the word, backload the
yeah,
compensation.
yeah, right.
So what was the name of the island that you were on in Alaska?
Oh, yeah,
Is
somebody's
that top
asking
secret?
about that. No,
No,
it's
no,
not
but
top secret. It's Shemya, Shemya, and
and
Shemya is located next to Attu.
and so if your boss there had said, would you like to stay here for another year? We'll give you a $500 bonus. Would you have done it?
Probably not.
I
Probably not.
mean, you said 2 miles by 4 miles. That's quite extreme, but
Yeah.
you probably got rock fever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Looking back at it with some maturity, the work that I was doing was really exciting. It was, frontline Cold War kind of work. And I wish in those days we had digital cameras like we do now. Everybody has a camera in their pocket, because there was a lot of things that would be interesting to show you now. But as it is,
Mhm.
I may have a few photographs. And one day I left my photographs out and somebody stole them. So there's that too. But um, The interesting thing, I said Shemya was next to Attu. Did you know that Attu was the only United States soil that was invaded by Japan during World War II?
Because they didn't succeed with Hawaii, and that was an air attack anyway.
No, I mean invaded. I mean land forces hit the beach,
Oh,
kind
right.
of
Okay.
invaded. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I went to Attu for a fishing trip, and I just couldn't imagine people in like military kind of dig a hole and getting your sleeping bag and sleep. It wasn't that kind of a place. It was a real like being on
So
the moon.
like a sandbar or something like that.
Well, it was a big island. It's a big island. Oh yeah, don't get me
Okay.
wrong. It's a big island. It was bigger than Shimia, as a matter of fact. But there's nothing there. It's just tundra and mountain, and
Mhm.
that's about it. Anyway, I'm off on
Yes.
personal stuff here. Let's see what we got. I think you both saw that video. Something like over 25,000 elderly Japanese caught shoplifting. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, Lisa. Lisa, how is it in where you're at in the good old CCCP in the good old China? How is it over there? Do they have this kind of a problem, a shoplifting problem? That would be interesting to know. I discovered that 90% of Japanese live within 20 miles of a line between Tokyo and Fukuoka that makes most of Japan rural. That's true. The Tokaido corridor.
Mhm.
Just like 90% or even more of Canadians live within, what is it, 50 miles of the American border? Some amazing
Yeah.
thing. And the majority of Americans live east of the Mississippi River. Did you know that?
I did
There are
not know
lots of videos
that.
showing stuff like that. Hmm?
I would imagine it's the coast, and then a few people live in Detroit and Chicago.
Yeah.
But it's the East Coast and West Coast is probably most
Well,
of
the
it.
West Coast is populated, but between the West Coast and the Mississippi, it's a water
Yeah,
problem, right? Yeah,
Montana. Yeah.
yeah. Montana, yeah. They learned how to say sayonara. Who are they? Do you know?
Not
I
sure.
think I lost a thread there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like
Oh,
you want.
maybe he was
Hmm?
talking about uh, the employees at the hospital who learned
Oh yeah,
Japanese.
there you go. That's the first thing they learned how to say. Sayonara.
Well, they learned after a couple of years anyway. Yeah.
I like to pronounce it sayo onara, but that's
Oh, yeah.
just like once you get to N2, you drop those dead end English teaching jobs and apply for something better. Okay. Is it that easy? Does N2 open a lot of doors for you?
I got a perfect score on N1. I
Uh,
don't feel that there are. I mean, if the dead end teaching job is the one paying 18 pound a month, then yeah, it's probably better than that. But I think you need. My personal opinion is just being fantastic at Japanese is not going to get you a great job. I think you need something else, like
yeah.
programming or whatever. It
But
could be many different things, but um, just getting into, I do not believe is going to get you jobs.
by the way, taxi companies are hiring, you know.
Yeah, but if you get a traffic violation, then you're out.
Oh,
Can't do
really?
any
Only
reason anymore. I mean, that's the extreme interpretation, but
yeah.
if you get too many, then you
Yeah.
were not living in harmony with the Japanese people. So
Okay. David Bowie. Bowie. David
David
Bowie.
Bowie,
When I heard
he's a country
Bowie,
singer, right?
when I heard Bowie, I thought of something too, and it wasn't David Bowie. Ed Noy, I said he's warming up. Were you here when Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing commercials for Ripobitan V? And
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
and V in Japanese, they say bui.
Yeah,
And then you
right.
had Schwarzenegger with his accent, and he would say bui and make a strange face. If you could find them on YouTube, they're really funny. Schwarzenegger was a real clown when he was running around Japan. There's a similar brain drain from university hospitals in the hinterlands. Very true. Very, very true. I lived in Fukuoka, and there were a couple of big university hospitals in the Fukuoka area. So people said, "Oh, well, we've got," but I didn't think they were as good as the medical care that you could get in Tokyo. That's my personal opinion. I said something like that one time in a video about Fukuoka, and I had a Fukuoka guy get so mad at me. You're bad mouthing my hometown. Sorry.
Actually, I think Fukuoka has been compared with Chicago, how the people from Fukuoka love it, like the people from Chicago love Chicago.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't. I
But
don't.
but my
Yeah.
impression from 1 year of living in Chicago is people from Chicago love it.
Oh yeah,
Like
they've got a lot of
they don't want
pride.
to move to Detroit, they don't want to move to New York, they don't want to move to LA. They love Chicago.
And their point of view is very insular. I'm very insular. And you know what they say, love it or leave it. And here I am in Tokyo. So it's a breach of contract. They should be expelled. Okay, Alexander's warming up. Someone invested in them and they took advantage of the situation. That's true, actually, in a way. If I don't, it seems a little bit unfair, or if they at least could
No,
have stuck around for a while.
I think in the article they fulfilled their obligations and then were given.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if they were required to work for company X and the visa was tied to company X and then they didn't, that would seem like it was an issue. But as long as they're here legally
Yeah.
and they aren't, backing out on their contractual obligations, it's okay, I would think.
What I thought was interesting in this article, I didn't talk about it when it was displayed, but they said some of the people trained in the hospital got this technical training, moved to Tokyo, and started working in the food service industry. So,
So loneliness is a powerful motivator,
yeah.
or maybe it's a little more complicated than that. Actually, in the United States, I want to say it was a year ago, H-1B visa was a really hot topic. And apparently, tech companies, they hire highly technical people on H-1B visas, and the visa is tied to the company. So basically, they can't leave until they get either permanent residence or citizenship, and then they quit, and then they go work somewhere else for more. So it's by tying the visa to the company, it allows the employers to hire them at artificially low wages because otherwise they'd have to leave the country. So
Wow.
I'm sure that I mean, in theory, it could happen in Japan as well.
Yeah, yeah. Long ago, some underhanded English schools would take your passport from. Oh, let me hold this for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not limited to English schools.
Yeah,
I think it's other folks too. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's not worth being loyal to a company because those companies certainly will not be loyal to you. There's that too. Of course, this article that we just said, I mean, this company was presented in a very good light, but who knows what it was like. But
I think so. Basically, it's the same thing, but a slightly different interpretation. So if you are a quote unquote permanent employee, a seishain, then they are investing in you like for your career. And this is usually the Japanese people. But if you are a contracted worker, then basically it's like, well, we're hiring you for 1 year. And so you have to we're not investing in you. We need to get whatever value it is that we're paying. We need to get that value of work from you because it's not a charity. So that's probably the mindset of the company. So they don't invest in you for long term.
Yeah. Okay. But and there's also the fact, I mean, it is true, human life, time goes on, people come, people go. Nobody's irreplaceable, because if somebody's irreplaceable, then it's not much of a company, is it? Okay. But she goes on. Life is too short to stay at a job you hate. Yeah. I don't know if they hated the job. They say that they liked the people and stuff like that, but they just wanted, the bright lights of the big city, right?
I mean, so this they didn't say this in the article, but if if they're women in their late 20s and if they have in their mind that they want to get married by 30 and then start a family, and if there's no options, then the saying my biological clock is ticking, they may feel the need to go somewhere where they have a potential to meet somebody. So, you know,
Yeah, and Bui said that one of her problems was out in the countryside. The work was nice. They treated her well. They were friendly.
Mhm.
But outside of work, there was no social life except with other trainees, and that she didn't like
Mhm.
that. And I can imagine that happening in a Japanese countryside situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Luxury is being able to get out of situations that no longer serve you without being scathed. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Luxury, you must be Gen Z. Oh, Alexander. Alexander's warming up. Are you Gen Z there? Let's see what happens here. Hiroshima PR from MT. Funnily, you said all that. You mean Montana?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
PR must be permanent resident. Yeah.
Yeah. You're from Montana. My son went to college in Montana, College of Great Falls. Very nice place. He's got fond memories of that place. You
And
need N2 and above to be able to apply for many more jobs in Japan. N2 does nothing if you do U.S. tax returns for a living. There you go. That's true, isn't it? I passed N2 6 years ago, but working on passing N1 this July. Gambatte kudasai. There's heavy surveillance here in China, so shoplifting doesn't seem to be a big problem. Although I did notice tonight the self checkout at the supermarket nearby was moved closer to the cashier. Okay. By the way, Lisa and I are in discussions. Lisa lived in Japan for 15 years or something like that, and she's lived in China for like 14 years. And in the not too distant future, Lisa and I are going to get together right here on Gaijin 50 Plus, and we're going to do a talk with each other, and it'll probably be a video instead of a live stream. But look forward to that because I'm looking forward to that myself. Okay, Hufano G says, I just think Japan is testing how well buying off influential U.S. persons and politicians is going to work versus alienating actual, U.S. citizens who live in Japan. Hope it works out. Yeah, I think personally that Japan has made a decision. And with this, I keep calling it entrepreneur's visa. I think it's got another one, business startup
business
visa.
manager visa.
Yeah, business manager
I think
visa.
there's a startup visa is different, but a business manager visa is the one that
Yeah,
the requirements went from 5 million to 30 million, and then
yeah,
you had to employ somebody full time who was a Japanese national or a permanent resident or something like that, and then pay them a certain amount. So
yeah. So I think they made a decision that they are trying to cut down on those number of smaller I hate to use the word, but almost marginal kind of businesses and shoot for the larger, more well capitalized businesses? Will it work? Will it end up shooting themselves in the foot or another part of the human anatomy? Who knows? We'll see, I guess.
I
Or
mean,
go ahead.
so since you had mentioned that, and maybe I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but
Go
I
ahead.
think with the business manager visa, my understanding is the capital requirements jump from 5 million to 30 million. So that's like
Yes.
$200,000
Yep.
from like $30,000.
Yep.
Uh, and then um, and then you didn't have to employ a Japanese speaker who is, uh, I guess, permanent resident and or Japanese national. And I think that you have to pay them 250,000 yen, so they can't be sort of like super cheap. Um, and I guess previously, then some people had paper companies and they would have like an Airbnb and it was all passive income. And then they would basically, this was a hack to immigrate to Japan without really having much of a business here. But on the other hand, so for example, if you're running a restaurant, so like I guess the classic one is Indian restaurant or something like that. Uh, if you go, there's customers, they're having a business. It's not made up, but the restaurant industry isn't doing super well. So now you have to hire more people, pay them a pretty decent wage by restaurant standards, and you have to have this extra cash set aside. That seems like, it's difficult for businesses that are already running to, oh, you must become more profitable. Maybe they need to throw a tip jar at the door, like, you tip or I go. Maybe you should do that with this channel.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So put the
The
tip jar. You have to put a tip
I
jar in the screen so people can
there
see.
you maybe I should just the requirements are capital requirement, as you said, goes from 5 million to 30 million. And then they have an experience and education requirement. Applicants now generally need at least 3 years of management experience or a master's or doctorate in a related field. I don't know how that's going to affect curry restaurants. And staffing, there is now a stronger emphasis on hiring full time staff, making one man operations harder to sustain. And there is a 3 year transitional period until October 2028. And some of these people who are on existing visas have until 2028 to increase their capital and get in line. But a lot of owners are realizing they'll never hit 30 million yen capitalization. And they say that there's been pushback in the diet, but the government has held firm. And the official goal is to foster substantive business operations and prevent nominal companies that are perceived as being used primarily for residency rather than economic contribution. So sounds good, but like the people who I hear from a lot of people in the comments, they sound like they've got a restaurant and stuff like that or a small business. They say, I don't know them, I don't know if they are, but they say that they're obeying all the laws and they're building a life, and they feel very, very betrayed by the Japanese government, that though they played according to the rules, they're being kicked out against their will, and they're feeling very upset about it. Whether all of this will be modified or some kind of I tended to think something will happen. The Japanese government, I never struck me as being that mean, but the more I check into it, the more I'm starting to feel I may be wrong about that. I mean, they may be using a very broad broom to clean house, but
Hmm. Well,
hope for
I
the
mean,
best.
it, again, it's like I sort of always compare with the States. you know, different administrations can be meaner or less mean than other administrations. So, whereas I guess the difference between Japan and the U.S. is where in the U.S. we go back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans, which are different parties. In Japan, it's mostly going back and forth between different factions within the LDP. I'm curious. You got messages and emails from people running restaurants. Did you get messages from people running Airbnbs?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of. Yeah.
Because I think they're the ones who are kind of like the target.
Yeah.
Although again, you know, if the rule is written a certain way, or and you follow the rule, it's kind of not up to the individual to decide. Well, that's not what they really meant. I should hold myself to a higher standard. So
yeah. Okay. Hufinoji says we're lucky to live in Japan. Japan is lucky to have a country to let people into. Okay. I feel lucky to live here. But do you think they will change the language requirements for current PR holders, giving them the ability to revoke PRs? Well, you know, the language requirement is for jobs that require you to interact with Japanese people. And that was put in because some of these bad brokers would would put a person in a nominal job that looked like they were a sales representative for dealing with Japanese people, and once they got here, they put them to work chopping vegetables in a factory somewhere. So they're trying to stop that. If you're going to put persons in a job that requires Japanese, those persons should be able to speak Japanese. So it's not a blanket language requirement. That said, go ahead.
I was going to say, so since PR is visas that are tied to jobs, then that makes sense. But if permanent residence isn't tied to a job, so I would imagine that for getting permanent residence, aren't they changing the rule for getting permanent residence? I guess so. It's not tied to a job, but it's like they want the permanent residents to live here in harmony with Japanese society. So permanent residence is like citizenship light, right?
Yeah, but I haven't heard anything about language requirements for permanent residents. But that's me. I haven't heard. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. What I saw about permanent residence was, in the past, about the only way you could lose your permanent residence is if you committed a serious crime or did something really, really bad, like murdered somebody or something like that. But under the new rules, that you could lose your permanent residence if you don't pay your taxes or you don't pay your insurance premiums and things like that. Okay.
You had a video where you listed some statistics, but when I saw that, I was thinking, well, that's like under the old implementation guidelines. It would be interesting to see an update to that video a year from now, after they've had some time under the new guidelines.
Yeah. I wonder. To this day, I wonder. We got all these rules and regulations and fees coming out, and I really wonder if when the implications of these new rules, regulations, and fees are felt, if they're going to be modifying them in any way, especially like these food service people. They've already filled the quota, and what are they going to do now? So anyway, we shall see. Huh? Yep. Go ahead.
And I know somebody who works or who's a consultant for the restaurant industry. Maybe I said this in a previous podcast, but not enough people working in the restaurant business is like it's a problem for like basically every restaurant. So it sounds like this policy will increase the hardship for restaurant owners and operators, going forward.
And not only restaurants. That visa is also covers people who work in food preparation, commercial food preparation, like for hospitals and things like that. So it's a serious problem. And it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it.
Yes, the hospital I was in for a while, it had many foreign workers working in the food service because they came out at a certain time and brought all the food.
I saw some article showing that they're putting foreign workers in charge of something to do with aviation. I don't know. They're not pilots, but maintenance of aircraft and things like that,
Yeah, I
which is
think I saw something like that
shocking.
too. Yeah.
That's pretty shocking based on the Japan that I've known in the past. Not shocking to me as an individual, but pretty surprising that Japan, I never would have imagined that very short time ago,
The
right?
only thing I can say is that airports, by their nature, are quite international and probably
Mm.
operate on international standards. So maybe that plays a part in why it's happened.
Yeah, but in the past, I'm sure that Japanese people thought, you don't want some foreigner, what if that airplane crashes, kind of way of thinking. But
Mhm.
okay. Is there a single example of a well-known English teaching company that has a good reputation amongst teachers? The last place I tried to trust explained the end of my classes before I knew about it. Yeah. 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 English companies by nature, and I don't want to say a blanket one way or the other. I don't know who you worked for or anything like that. But the nature of the business that they're in is that teachers come and go. And so I don't know. Berlitz used to have a real good reputation, but now they don't. I heard, but I don't know for sure. ECC has a generally good reputation. But if that was a place that cut your classes, that, I hate to say a name, but there are other English companies, but I'm not that familiar with the companies to say anything. And if anybody else would like to chime in, please do.
But I don't want to mention specific companies, but yeah, I think in general, English conversation is so they changed in the 90s. They changed the law. It used to be like they would. I think there was one company that was associated with a loan sharking company, English conversation, and they would charge. It was a fairly decent fee. It was like 6,000 yen an hour for group lessons or something like that. And then you would take lessons, but you would sign a contract. And then once you signed the contract, like there would be lessons that would be noisy. It was like, I don't want to keep taking lessons. And then you couldn't get out of it. So you had signed up for a year of lessons. And they would lend you the money so you weren't giving the whole amount at the beginning, but then you couldn't get out of it. And they were a loan sharking company. So they had ways of making you pay. And they eventually changed the law to avoid that. And then in response, the English companies would charge really high amounts for their materials. So you could get a refund on your lesson fee that you had agreed to pay, but you backed out of. But you couldn't get a refund on your materials. And so if you bought a textbook for 50,000 yen, you'd never get that money back, even though the textbook might cost them 2,000 yen to print or something.
No.
Anyway, it's not the pinnacle of moral business dealing.
Yeah, yeah, and they have certain realities they got to deal with too. I mean, it's not to say they're just dirty people, though. There are some dirty English companies, but they got to try to squeeze a buck out of this ever shrinking
Mm-hmm.
pie, right? The rules completely changed overnight. That's the hard part, isn't it? How quickly they
About
changed
the
and how
business manager,
visa
yeah.
rules, right? And how quickly they changed and how radically they changed, and all the fees and stuff like that. The fees going to those levels is defensible because it puts it onto the international standard. But the way that they did it overnight was kind of kind of surprising. I mean,
Well, you said that they've got that 3-year grace period, I think, for
yeah,
the
yeah,
companies
yeah,
that are in the process, but it's
yeah,
still, I guess it's like it seems like it's going to be impossible. It's like if somebody said, "Well, you have to lose 30 kilos in 3 years," I'm like, that's not going to happen. So
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
may
Right,
as well give up now. You know.
right. And even the other fees, like permanent resident fees and the visa fees. It would have been nice if they sort of like eased into it rather than just throwing it out there like that. But I don't have business manager. I have the international services one. Oh, okay, visa. My visa lawyer was very foresighful about what status was best, and that was in 2015. Good for you there, Ufinoji. 5 mil to 30. They're cutting down on shell companies, unfortunately, killing honest companies along with them. Yeah, kind of like with that chemotherapy, right? So
Killing the person along with killing the cancer.
there you go. So it's a
Yeah.
good, yeah, it's a good, yeah,
Gyosei Shoshi. So these are they get translated as scrivener, but
yeah,
some basically I think in the states some of these Gyosei Shoshi are sort of like the equivalent of immigration lawyers. They technically aren't
yeah,
lawyers; they're more like about the paperwork. But from various accounts I've heard, basically they know the system. They make sure that when you apply, if if they say you're good, then you're very likely going to pass. Although
yeah.
um, with the rules changing, even they may not know how the government's going to react to certain applications.
I had an old friend who used to say, if you want to be successful in Japan, you have to have a friend who's a doctor and a friend who's a yakuza. That was long ago, but
Okay. Hopefully not the same
so
guy.
there. Hopefully not the same guy. I think it's BS where international services is speaking English is at a convenience or a restaurant. Yeah, a good point. Hufinoji, why don't you request Japanese nationality? And he answers, I can only be an American. Being Japanese citizen usually means quitting other countries. Doesn't work. That's true. I get that same question. Why don't you just take Japanese nationality? My son took Japanese nationality, but I just don't I don't see the benefit yet.
I was curious. So I heard somebody ask the question is if you get Japanese citizenship and therefore give up your American citizenship, does that mean that you can no longer collect American Social Security? Do they like say, oh, you're not American anymore, we're not going to pay your Social Security? Now, obviously, you have to qualify for American Social Security, and I think you have to pay in for 40 quarters. So if you didn't get an American paycheck for basically 10 years, you wouldn't qualify for American Social Security anyway. But I'm just curious if citizenship impacts whether you can collect it or not.
Japanese people collect American Social Security too.
Okay.
So yeah,
Citizenship is not a requirement.
as far as I know. But that doesn't mean it's true. But okay. The Jiminto government uses the Sanseito crying baby as the convenient excuse to tighten up on the regulations. You're correct. I think they do that quite a bit. This guy Sanseito, Sanseito said this. Sanseito, what does Sanseito have? Two seats or three seats? They're not
They
part
might
of the
have 10
cabinet.
now, but it's
Yeah.
irrelevant because they're not in the coalitions.
I acquired Japanese nationality. Way to go, Alexander. It was no problem getting rid of my former passport. Okay.
Yeah, but so some people may need the other citizenship, for a variety of reasons. So
Yeah. So Japan is going ice on foreigners now. Yeah. Okay. Good. Mao Zedong, mo tekito in
Motakto,
Japanese. Yeah, mo tekito.
motakto. I think it's takto, but yeah,
Mo taksan.
motaksan. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Mao Zedong.
I
Mhm.
heard from someone you could lose your permanent residency if you left Japan for too long. I know someone who lost it that way. Yeah, I think if you leave and don't, isn't it, you don't get a reentry
The entry
permit or
permit.
something? Yeah. If you,
So
yeah.
my understanding is, and if somebody knows, please correct me. With so Years ago, you needed to get a reentry permit, and you could get a multiple one, and then you didn't have to keep going back to immigration. But now I think visas generally you can re-enter without getting a re-entry permit. But in the case of permanent residency, if you don't come back within 1 year, then uh, you lose it. And if you get a re-entry permit, then you can stay out longer. You might have to explain why you were away or something, but yeah, I think the cutoff is 1 year.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm checking on it right now, but I think even on a regular visa, if I think there's a time limit to stay away.
Mhm.
Anyway, I won't look up. Everybody's got the internet. You can it's easily findable. Shizuoka. I doubt that they would revoke current PR holders with sudden language requirements. Too much bad press for the government. Well, they don't seem to. Bad press does not seem to bother this government. They are still trying to attract professional foreigners. But you may have a point there. Alexander, I have Japanese nationality. The only thing they can do is send me to prison.
With labor.
With labor, yeah. Alexander Kurz, yes, him. Okay. Yeah, like Johnny Somali. They
Yeah,
they
that was the reference. Yes.
yeah, they extended his first it was 6 months and now they're saying 1 year or something. There was a tag the base requirement of showing in Japan every so often.
So, like, if
Okay.
you're a permanent resident, you have to come back from else. I think in the States, if you have a green card, you lose it if you are away for more than a year.
Yeah. So, Patrick, good for Japan. There is a global great migration underway, and only countries, cultures that fiercely protect their sovereignty will survive the next 200 years. Europe is gone. Good point. And then I think, Japan, by the way that they're doing things with the permanent residence and the nationality and the entrepreneur visa or whatever it is that they call it, is that they want the workers to come here, but they don't want hordes of workers to come and settle here. The way I see what they're doing. They look around what happened in the United States and what happened to Europe, and I think they don't want it to happen here. Whether
So
they'll be
I think
successful about.
from a government financial point of view, if you get people to work and pay into the system, and then they leave when they would be collecting from the system, because I mean, in a way, the pension is one thing, but like when people get old, then they probably, um, if they've worked and retired and they're still here, they probably consume a lot more social welfare than they would have when they were young. And if those people are no longer in the country, then they could benefit. Japan as a country can benefit from the work and not have to pay the delayed bills, so to speak. But as I was saying with the United States, if you haven't paid into Social Security, you'll find yourself back in the United, like as an American, if you go back to the United States and you can't collect Social Security, uh, what are you going, as an individual, what are you going to do in that other country? So it seems like we go back to the how companies deal with um, contract workers versus seishain. It feels like a kind of parallel kind of mentality between citizens and foreigners in general, foreign workers. Yeah.
Hufenoji says Berlitz routinely denied Shakai Hoken and they basically killed Catherine Campbell by not enrolling her in Shakai Hoken. She found a lump, wasn't enrolled in insurance, went back to Canada. Yeah, this Shakai Hoken and working for a company, there are all kinds of various rules. You have to work in the company or have a certain amount of earnings or something. I've seen people having to deal with that, and but besides Shakai Hoken, there's also Kokumin Hoken. So if your company doesn't give you Shakai Hoken, you can get it as an individual through, I think, Kokumin Hoken. Okay. I also know an African guy who speaks no Japanese but got his PR in less than 3 years because he works for a big company and started up businesses in Japan. Maybe he has some desirable skill. Okay, who knows? All right. When Catherine went back to Canada for treatment, Berlitz said she left her job and therefore couldn't come back to Japan. She died in 2019. Well, that's a sad story. Okay. Foreigners should automatically be enrolled in Kokumin Nenkin, Kenko Hoken, and whatever Kosai Nenkin is available. Okay.
I mean, I think so. So for people who have, short-term residency statuses, they aren't enrolled or they aren't eligible for those things. Like you're here on a 3-month visa or something like that. But I think anybody who has a quote-unquote long-term visa here, which means either 6 months or 12 months, you must enroll in these things. I think, unless you're like a student and you're not working, and then you don't have to apply. You don't enroll in Nenki, but you probably have to enroll in Kenko Hoken. So I think foreigners are obligated to enroll in those things. I'm not
But
sure
the thing he was talking about, with Berlitz is a company, right? And if you can get onto the company's Hoken, the company pays half and you pay half, and it's cheaper. And it's good if you're like a full-time or close to full-time. They've got different ways of calculating all that. Like I said, I've seen people who have had to deal with it, and it's very complicated. It's the way that the system is set up. Or you could be like me, and I'm sure Hufen OG, maybe you had to deal with it too. You get to a certain age, and the government kicks you off of the company Hoken. You're just not allowed to be on a company Hoken anymore after a certain
age. Is it true? So even if I'm employed at a company, the company is not allowed to have me be part of its company insurance plan?
Yep. On your birthday, you're kicked out.
Okay, and then you switch over to Kokumin Kenko Hoken or something.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it
happened to me. Do you have any idea what that age is?
If I'm not mistaken, 72, 3, something like that.
What? You're 73?
Yeah. You look so young. Yeah, last week.
Right.
They're favorable of the foreigners with the moolah. Sure, all governments will give you a visa for a pile of money. It's clear that the PR is a gift granted by if the Japanese feel like it, no rational standard. Yeah, and even the Japanese Supreme Court has said that in the McLean decision. You can collect Social Security, but you do it under the totalization rules. Yeah, Japan has a treaty with the U.S. as far as Social Security is concerned. In general, foreigners can collect Social Security, Richard informs us. I worked for Berlitz for 8 years. It was better than the others at the time. However, my friend still there says it's not as great working conditions as before. Yeah, Lisa, I agree. I've never worked there, But our old friend Tokyo Dano, he worked for Berlitz for a while, and he said that it's gone downhill of late. Okay. There are about 80,000 Japanese who collect Social Security under totalization. Social Security publishes the stats. San Seito has like 14 seats. Thank you. I knew it. I knew there was a four there somewhere. I didn't give them credit for the other 10. It took only 4 months for a certain German leader to remove all Jews from all professional jobs 85 years ago. When change to the extreme right happens, it can happen overnight. Well, I wouldn't say just the extreme right. If you want to reference Paul Pot did a pretty good job, and I wouldn't say Paul Pot. Paul Pot was pretty to the left, wasn't he? Wasn't he a communist? But yeah, when there's a will, there's a way, I guess, huh? Ednoy says, scary? It certainly is. Humans are scary bunch. Fortunately, my royal status offers me certain protection. Manga University, you've been lurking. We often talk about you. Whatever happened to Manga University? I guess you deign not to mingle with us riffraff, but good to see you. It's good to see you. Yeah, give the Queen my best regards, would you? They want foreigners to give their labor, pay taxes, and stimulate the economy for a year or two, and then send them home. Could be. We'll see what happens. Right on, manga. Okay. The day they started to isolating gaijins, I will leave. Yeah. I'm sure they will be more polite than years ago. Okay. Isolating gaijins. That brings me to another topic. And I did a short
Oh,
on
yeah. Yeah.
I
Go
did a
ahead.
short on it recently. And I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I did a short recently on the gaijin seat. And I took some flack for it. Some people, a Japanese guy called me paranoid. Some gaijins got on me about it. Just this morning, I had to delete a comment from somebody who got very insulting about it. And both gaijins and Japanese making their different excuses for it, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, it just doesn't exist." Now, I will say, allow me to preface this for 56 years, people would talk about the gaijin seat, and I'd roll my eyes. Oh, God, here we go again. And I used to assume there must be something wrong with you if people ain't sitting next to you, because it never happens to me. There's a quite a well-known black Japanese commenter named Bale McNeil. Used to have his local in Yokohama blog back when I had my blog, and we were contemporaries and we had contact with each other. And he wrote an article about the gaijin seat, and he updated and reconstituted that article in the Japan Times. And both his original article and his Japan Times article made me roll my eyes. Oh, here goes Loco again, complaining that nobody's going to sit next to him on the train. And I never believed it. I thought, no, it's not true. Until about a month or two ago, when I noticed, I rode all the way into Shinjuku and nobody sat next to me. And, the train was not that crowded. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. And it does happen that there'll be a seat next to me, and somebody will come running up to the seat to sit down, see me, and turn around and walk away. And that never happened before, but it has. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's because of this, and not anti, but negative press that the gaijins are getting these days. And I really, really started wondering about that. Then I thought, well, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it just happened that one time. And maybe I'm getting too sensitive in my old age or something like that. Then just yesterday, I rode the commuter train all the way in to Yotsuya, and it's a trip that takes good 50 minutes. And I sat in a seat, and the seat next to me was open, and nobody sat next to me for the entire trip, all the way into Yotsuya. And there were people standing all around me. And I would say 2 or 3 or 4 women came up to the seat and turned around and walked away. Now, I talked to my wife about this. I said, man, this is getting weird. And some people, okay, some people on, you know who you are, some people online said things like, well, maybe, as you get older, your face becomes scarier, or maybe it's your clothing that you wear. Okay, may I show you something? I hope that this works. I set it up, so bear with me if this doesn't work. So there's the seat. That's the gaijin seat next to me, between me and that guy. And there are the people standing in front of me. Now, my wife saw this, and she said, well, the guy who's sitting on the other side of your gaijin seat is a guy, and you're a guy. And, I would hesitate sitting between two guys, too. And I thought she would say something like that. So I waited until that guy got off, and somebody sat down. And to show you that I'm not a scary guy on my way to work, here is one more clip. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Bear with me. Here's another clip. This is me. As you see, I've got a coat and a tie on. May I point out, I'm not a scary looking guy. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what's going on? So like my wife said, oh, they're two guys. I don't want to sit between two guys either. Come around here, and there's a bachan sitting over there, but the gaijin seat is between us. Do I look scary, everybody? What do you think? I had a coat and a tie and a suit. Some people said, well, Japanese people think gaijins smell bad. Well, I'll point out that every morning before I go to work, I take a bath. So I know I don't stink. Some people said, oh, gaijins, their clothing has a strong smell because of fabric softener or detergent from the US. But I've got a Japanese wife, and she doesn't wash clothes like that. So that makes me wonder, what's going on? And some people are saying, oh, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't necessarily bother me. What bothered me was when my commenters called me paranoid, and some were saying like almost like I was imagining things or making excuses. Right? Oh, one Japanese guy said, well, we are raised in such a way that we believe that we Japanese believe that we want to give foreigners space, so they feel comfortable, and it's always a positive thing. So I just wanted to put that out there. I may do a full-blown video on this topic because I found out some really interesting things. But since I brought it up, okay, you want to go ahead?
I'm pretty sure I know the reason. So my guess is that Gaijin 50 Plus.
Everybody knows the reason. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Gaijin 50 Plus has been getting a lot of views lately, and my guess is that they've seen your videos and they know that you never stop talking, and they don't want to be talked to on a 50-minute ride into downtown.
Maybe that's it.
I'm not going to sit next to that guy because he's going to talk my ear off.
Never shuts up, Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Carl.
So
I'm sorry, everybody. This is Carl's last day here today.
But so I ride in and out, ride the train in and out of or to and from Tokyo, downtown. And if I'm riding during a relatively crowded time, if I'm if I've sat down and there's like, let's say half the seats are empty and then it fills up as it gets towards, as it gets towards the edge of Tokyo, I would say that the seat next to me or the seats next to me are basically the last ones to be filled. Usually somebody sits because they have no other option, but usually it's the last one to be filled. And I'm not a sumo wrestler, but I'm a full size guy. As I said, XXL, and they don't sell my size in Uniqlo. But and maybe I'm not quite as frequent with my baths as you, but yeah, I think it's real, and I guess we'll have to ask them, why aren't you sitting down? So
Here's one. Somebody else said this to me, a friend of mine. It's the mask. And you know what? If I hadn't been wearing a mask, you would have said, it's because you're not wearing a mask. And Japanese people always wear masks. So I don't I don't go for that. It's the mask stuff. Sorry, Richard.
so sometimes there's the seat next to you is empty because the person standing in front of you has decided not to sit down, and then the other people who would like to sit there, they're not going to like elbow their way in, and then so it's not that everybody doesn't want to sit next to you, it's that the person standing in front of the empty seat has decided not to sit down, and then it's kind of stuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. That's, in fact, that was one of the most reasonable reasons that I heard. And somebody, where did I see it? I don't think it was online. I think when I was researching this topic, and that is that when once it's there, nobody wants to be the first one to break to cross the stream or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, cross the streams, yes.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
Generally, I stand on the train. But on that particular day, is I got on at my home station, and as soon as I got on, there was a seat, so I sat down. And I think I screwed up everybody else's schedule.
So here's another strange question. So if people don't want to sit next to the foreigner, do they also not want to stand next to the foreigner? So if you're standing on the train and there's some Japanese people standing next to you, do the people standing next to you move to another part of the car, or do they just keep standing there?
Well, they keep standing there. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no standing equivalent to the gaijin seat.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting. If everybody just wants to be away from the foreigner, it's interesting that there's no like standing space for the foreigner.
Oh, here we got a China report. In China, they'll sit next to me if it's crowded and no other choices. It might be the same in Japan or not. I've got a female coworker, and we were talking about this, and she said, "Oh, people sit next to me all the time." And I told her, "You're a chick, you're a woman." Some, probably old guys like to sit up next to you. I'm only half joking, by the way. Okay. And I'd rather walk for a whole hour and enjoy the scenery. But yeah, there you go. There's that too. Even this foreigner thing, I started thinking about that. The way they report in the news, even today, some of the news stories that we saw today, foreigners when they steal. And I started thinking, gaijin 50 plus and all that, the word gaijin never bothered me. But with this gaijin seat and all this, and that means they're regarding me in a way, even though I've lived here for as long as I have, they're lumping me together with all of gaijins. And I started thinking, there are 195 countries in the world. And in the in the Japanese mind, there's Japan and foreigners. 194 countries, 100 people from 194 countries are being lumped together and said to be the same. It's really comical if you think about it for a while. Okay. All right. So, 2 hours getting down there, getting to be late at night, 10 o'clock. How you doing, Carl? You getting tired?
I'm good. We could go another hour. You want to go another hour?
I said in my Wednesday live stream, some of these live streamers go for like all day. I may try to do that one of these days. See if I can do an ultra long stream. You up for it, Carl?
Sure. So after the 2 hour mark, you stick up the tip jar, and then like it's you probably know this. So like I lived in England in the 70s, and one, not us, but another house, they had a television that I guess you paid for the usage. So this was a television that had a coin slot, and in order to keep watching the television, you had to keep putting money into the television. Have you ever heard of this? I would imagine it doesn't exist now, but
that used to be standard, like in motels. Like you're driving and I mean American style motels. You're driving and say, "Oh, better stop for the night." You pull in a motel, and it usually had a little box, and you just kept feeding quarters at the time. So I don't know what kind of money you had to.
I thought that was the Magic Fingers bit, but
yeah.
But anyway, so you could have that. So like after the two, you get the first 2 hours are free to get them hooked, and then after that, you just stick the coin thing up. It's okay.
I know what I do.
Time before I go off the air.
People have to pay to get me to stop talking. How's that? We'll be rich.
And then you could go over to the Gaijin 45 Plus, and then
yeah. Well, that should just about do it. I guess I'll see you in the other place there, Carl. Everybody else,
Sure.
I hope you come back here on next Saturday. Are we going to be anything special? So this is Golden Week. Yeah, the next Saturday will be the 9th, which I guess is the kind of like the tail end of Golden Week if you're taking Thursday and Friday off.
That's Dragon Ball Day, right?
Dragon Ball Day?
Goku is the main character from Dragon Ball, right? So it's Goku. I don't know.
That's
made it up. So.
Dragon Ball is after my time there, young man.
I think it's from the 80s.
After my time. After my time. So everybody, like we said, I'll also be doing one on the 6th in the middle of Golden Week, I think. So if you got nothing to do at 10 o'clock Japan time or late in the evening, Tuesday, American time, North American time, we'll see you then. I want to say thank you for everybody coming. I think we set a new record today on the total number of visitors. And that's very good that's very good. Oh, I suppose we should ask ourselves if we want to sit next to other foreigners. There's that too. Do you avoid foreigners on the train? Sometimes
so big, I don't want to sit next to them.
They're so big and they smell bad.
In Hiroshima back in the day, it was like a maximum of one foreigner per car. It's kind of like the sumo wrestler stables. But here in Tokyo, they're all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of foreigners around here. A lot of foreigners. Yeah. I wish they'd all go home. Yeah. That's what we should do, Carl. Okay. And thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next time. And I hope you had a good time because we sure did. And we still got some comments coming in. I think you'll be able to look at them after we put this thing up on YouTube. So, okay, everybody. Thank you so much. See you next time.
You guys. Bye.